So this section from Ecclesiasticus is perhaps one of the more famous of the book. It's been set to a wonderful English anthem. Is kind of let us now praise famous men and those who begat us. So it goes on from there. But my favorite part of this whole thing, actually, it makes this catalog of those who kind of cut quite a figure in their times, and some of whom even left a name, right? It even recognizes that even those who are famous in their time aren't quite so famous just a generation or two later. Just as sports, I mean, that's the whole point of sports trivia, right? I mean, sports trivia should demonstrate for us without a doubt that people can be famous for a year or so, and then they become a trivia question, right? Only those with memories going back can, or have a fascination with that sort of detail, can remember them. So then it goes through this list of all those, and all by the way, for the musicians with me, it does. You might have caught that it mentions those who compose musical tunes or put verses in writing. So musicians have their space in here. But for the rest of us, Ecclesiasticus also has a word. It says some of them have left behind a name, right? But of others there is no memory. They have perished as though they'd never existed. They've become as though they'd never been born, they and their children after them. And so that's where we find ourselves, right? That even our own families, right, over generations, they will have to be told of us. But these also were godly, whose righteous deeds have not been forgotten. And so what is kind of implied there is not been forgotten by whom? It already says that as far as human beings are concerned, there are so many who lived as if they, or lived and died as if they never existed. That is, their names are not known any longer. So who is remembering these deeds? And of course, the answer, the unspoken answer, is that God remembers, right? That God does not forget us. That it says their offspring will continue forever, their glory will never be blotted out. Their bodies are buried in peace, but their name lives on generation after generation. The name, of course, in being not just what we're called by other people, but the name symbolizing the very essence of who we are, right? In the biblical sense, the name represents the person. It's a kind of a stand-in for the person, him or herself. Like the name of the Lord is God's very presence being invoked. And so when it says that our name will never be blotted out, that God has us forever, and that nothing, even death, can separate us from him, that our name, our very self, will never lapse into non-existence, that God himself remembers us, the God who created everything, and before whom not even a sparrow falls to the ground without him noticing, that God is the God who does not forget, God who remembers us, who remembers our faithfulness, and remembers us with his mercy. And that's the good news. He remembers us also with his mercy. So in a sense, we can live through this world and we don't have to achieve glory like the Greek heroes who are always, you wanted to, seek a great name so that you lived forever through your deeds. But we, as followers of Jesus, don't need to follow those pagan, which, by the way, still lives with us, doesn't it? These pagan notions of immortality, because we believe and we know a God who will remember us, who will never forget us, and will never allow our names, our very selves, our existence to be blotted out from before his loving gaze. A reading from Ecclesiasticus. Let us now sing the praises of famous men, our ancestors in their generations. The Lord apportioned to them great glory, his majesty from the beginning. There were those who ruled in their kingdoms and made a name for themselves by their valor, those who gave counsel because they were intelligent, those who spoke in prophetic oracles, those who led the people by their counsels and by their knowledge of the people's lore. They were wise in their words of instruction. Those who composed musical tunes or put verses in writing. Rich men endowed with resources, living peacefully in their homes. All these were honored in their generations and were the pride of their times. Some of them have left behind a name so that others declare their praise. But of others there is no memory. They have perished as though they had never existed. They have become as though they had never been born, they and their children after them. But these also were godly men, whose righteous deeds have not been forgotten. Their wealth will remain with their descendants, and their inheritance with their children's children. Their descendants stand by the covenants, their children also for their sake. Their offspring will continue forever, and their glory will never be blotted out. Their bodies are buried in peace, but their name lives on generation after generation. The assembly declares their wisdom, and the congregation proclaims their praise. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.